Filed as required by law, stating the board would meet in closed session at 7 p.m. in the Pitman High School Media Center. The president shall entertain any objections with supporting reasons to the conduct of this meeting on the grounds that it violates the Open Public Meeting Act. Seeing none, good evening and welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join me in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Miles, please call roll.
Mrs. Bolton.
Here.
Mrs. Farrell. Mr. Grossman. Mrs. Higby-Iono.
Here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Mrs. Papalardo. Mrs. Pote.
Here.
We have a quorum 6-0.
Thank you. All right, that's going to take it to our first presentation. So Dr. Preston, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, so we're going to announce our Governor's Educators of the Year awards. We're going to start with our Memorial School winners. So I'm going to invite Miss Kirsten Miller up to present our winners, and I'm going to present them with certificates as well.
Okay, sounds good. Now,
I wish it was the youngest is first, but I know it's just the element, the youngest school. Okay, so thank you all for coming. It's great to see everybody. Memorial's Teacher of the Year is Mrs. Linda Pramal. Come on up, Linda. Mrs. Pramal has been a teacher for 20 years. After 1 year in private school, she began working in Pitman Public Schools for the last 19 years. She has taught at Wall School for 13 years in both kindergarten and 4th grade, and 1 year teaching at Kindle, and saved the best for last as her 5 years teaching kindergarten at Memorial School. So after she shared her stats with me, because I wanted to make sure I had them right, I said to her, wow, you really got around. And she said, I've been everywhere. So one of the best things that I've seen since being here with Linda is when her former students come back, they come to read and perform and all of those things, they flock to her immediately and love to share all of their stories and updates. Here's a bit of what her nomination letter shared. Linda is incredibly dedicated to her students and classroom. She arrives at school early, but also stays beyond contracted hours to organize, plan, set up, clean up, etc. in the classroom. And often when I'm there at 5:30 and I hear the copier running, I come out and I say, why are you still here? Not to shock though, because she's always there. She's always very flexible and understanding. Another wrote that Linda always has a smile on her face and is willing to help out her colleagues. She is kind and caring to her students and their families. As her principal, I know Linda is fun and she's always up for a challenge, and most recently, she participated in our masked reader and dressed as an inflatable pink unicorn. She lifts her colleagues up and has such wonderful positivity. She contributes so much to her students and community in Pitman and enjoys having her kids attend our school as well. So congratulations. Thank you for being with us. And our Educator of the Year is Mrs. Shannon Mitten. Does not enjoy the spotlight. She'd rather be sitting on the carpet in circle time in preschool, but I told her if she did not come, I'd be very upset. So she's appeasing me. Mrs. Mitten is in her 3rd year as a preschool instructional coach in the Pitman Public Schools. She was a preschool teacher in Camden Public Schools for 9 years, where she taught as part of the Preschool Expansion Aid Flagship Program. It's where our PEA essentially derived from is all the urban areas in New Jersey. When interviewing for Pitman, it was very clear that she would be the educator that we needed to help navigate the most successful preschool program that Memorial could have. Moving from a teacher to a coach for someone who loves to be in the classroom is always challenging, but Shannon has managed to craft the position in such a way that she spends more time in the classroom than not. Here is a bit of what her nomination letter shared. Mrs. Mitten is always running up and down the hallways, helping any educator or student who may need help. She has incredible knowledge and has added to the preschool program. Another said, Mrs. Mitten's knowledge of preschool and the creative curriculum is extensive. She travels around to each classroom working with children as well as the teachers. The parents trust and appreciate her and her guidance. As her principal, I think one of the things that I'm most proud about that Shannon has brought to us is our Parents of Partners program, Parents as Partners, where she invites parents to come in, learn about what are the best ways to do things with your preschoolers. They go into the classrooms together. I think we've done it about 9 times this year, and they always are so happy that they get to play a part in their students' school day. I know that we can rely on Shannon for support in the building. She goes everywhere that's needed without hesitation. She embodies all of our goal as a team. She lives in town with her family and also plays a big role in the community. We are very lucky to have her.
Next up is Mr. Morris is presenting for PES. I didn't see him, so I was looking for him. Mr. Morris, thanks for being here. For middle grades, the intermediate school, essentially.
Thank you to the board for providing all of us this platform to recognize excellence in our classrooms. On behalf of Mrs. Mason and myself, it's my honor to introduce Ms. Jillian Young as Pitman Elementary School's Teacher of the Year. It has been a few years, but I can say with some confidence that Miss Howe began her Pitman journey as an instructional aide in 3rd grade at Walls School before many years at Kindle. And now it's my pleasure to work closely with her in our new elementary configuration. Mrs. Young is an educational trailblazer who deserves to be recognized. Beyond the general education classroom, she leads committees, initiates STEM programs, and for years was part of a co-teach duo supporting countless students and currently leading our enrichment program serving 3rd and 4th grade students. She has a natural talent for teaching all students, building on existing strengths and showing patience and resiliency when developing emerging skills. She is extremely organized, driven, data-oriented, tech-savvy, and exhibits a level of professionalism that's hard to come by. Through the years, Ms. Young has developed written and revised curriculum guides in multiple subject areas and has served as a content area leader working to support teachers K through 12 in the areas of math and science. Mrs. Young excels in many areas, but building positive relationships with students and families and fostering a love of learning cannot be overlooked. Beyond the classroom, Mrs. Young has cultivated a wonderful rapport with our school community, parents, fellow staff members, community members, and other stakeholders. We believe these qualities, in addition to the instructional leadership, have earned the respect and admiration of colleagues and our community, making her more than worthy of this honor. Mrs. Young's dedication to her students, craft, sense of community, and kindness are a powerful combination that consistently makes wherever you find her in Pitman Elementary School a great place to be. The 2 3rd grade teachers described her as excellent and a winner. And you know what? They were back then and are still correct. Thank you for all you do for our students and our elementary community. You make us all very proud.
Next up, we'll have Dr. Lombardo to present our, and Ms. Stewart to present our junior and senior high school staff member to you.
Good evening. It is with Pitman pride that Ms. Stewart and I introduce this year's Teacher of the Year for the junior senior high school, Mrs. Stephanie Collins. Mrs. Collins is truly a dedicated individual who brings an enthusiasm of educational intelligence, humor, and dedication into every lesson. Known for her ability to inspire, engage, and make even the most challenging literature come to life, Mrs. Collins has created a learning environment where students not only grow academically, but they are also supported and encouraged in every single lesson. Whether staying late to help a student or sparking a deep conversation about literature, Mrs. Collins' commitment to her students is unwavering. Through her tireless work and infectious enthusiasm, Mrs. Collins fosters a love of learning that will stay with students long after they leave her classroom. We would like to thank her family, her husband Gary, who's over there videotaping, and her sons Dane and Reed for being here tonight, because as much as she loves teaching and her students in her classroom, there's no more massive love than she has for her family, which is how it all should be. So tonight, we would like to thank her for being the amazing teacher that she is and recognize her as the Teacher of the Year. I would like to thank the Board of Education for giving us this opportunity, but most importantly, I would like to thank our outstanding educator for what truly teaching embodies, and that is compassion, love of students, and a drive to just continue to learn. Thank you, Mrs. Collins. Next, it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce our ESPY of the Year. I'm going to ask that Mr. McAfee, isn't that a singer?
Yeah.
Please come forward. We want to recognize Mr. McAfee, who consistently embodies the very definition of compassion and commitment, qualities that have made him not only an exceptional school counselor, but also a very trusted guide and unwavering support to countless students. When you have a school counselor that students know that they can go to in any situation, that's the most important piece of a school. Mr. McAfee is that person. Mr. McAfee is someone who goes above and beyond, always prioritizing the well-being and success of every individual in the student. He does that by fostering an environment of empathy and care. Through tireless devotion, he has created a safe space for all students to grow, thrive, and overcome obstacles, making a profound impact on both their academic journeys and their lives as a whole. With an unwavering commitment to his students, Mr. McAfee exemplifies what it means to be a true champion for the next generation, and for that, we thank him.
At this time, we're going to ask all of the teachers and staff members that were recognized to come up. We'd like to take some pictures. We're also going to take probably about a 10-minute recess to take some pictures, and so we can congratulate all the winners. All right? So if you guys could all come up in front of our Stephanie Repeat, that would be great. Pardon? Yeah, it's not going to be one and a half.
All right. I like it. Get us in there.
We're not 12. It's 7 o'clock.
to our second presentation of the evening. We'll turn it over to Mr. Miles for our budget presentation.
Great, thank you.
I'm actually going to do it with them.
All right.
I don't know how we go from one of the most joyous things, celebrating teachers, to talking about budgets. But that's part of the job too. I'll let Mr. Miles handle all the high-level money stuff. But I did want to just kind of, start by kind of talking about what guides our process. A budget really does, it's significant. It says where your priorities are. And, whether it be from the town, and I see some councilmen here, Mr. Mayor's here, it really says what are you trying to prioritize. And, this is a tentative budget as well. The public hearing is April 30th, and that's why you see our meetings a little later for that. This is what we submit a tentative budget to the county. Numbers can change. We'll talk a little bit later in my superintendent report about ways we're still trying to lobby and our president's legislative advocacy efforts to secure even more funding. Sometimes that happens. Like last year, you had a tentative budget that was presented probably around this time. I think a couple weeks later, there was something called stabilization aid. That's not available this year, but that's one of the things that was presented after it. And so the budget gets amended and then submitted for final review by May 7th or April 30th, somewhere around that date. May 7th. So this is the tentative budget that we're going to present tonight. And just so you're aware, state aid numbers, I think you probably saw my last letter after the last board meeting came out, end of February. We have essentially 2.5 weeks to put this together. So it's funny, I joked with some teachers, like, listen, you won't see me for a couple weeks while we're trying to build this. And I'll emerge from my cave after we strike a budget. So it's been a busy season for myself, Mr. Miles, the entire administrative team, the board. And so it's a collective effort. So our goals, where are these priorities? We want to continue to offer the highest quality services and programs to our students. Obviously, we're running it's a personnel heavy endeavor. We don't produce a product. We provide a service to students. Not to say it's some transactional thing, but it's probably the most worthwhile endeavor we can do as really a society. So obviously, rising healthcare, salary, tuition costs. We want to be fiscally responsible, and that's, again, these things guide us. Keep the local tax levy as low as possible while continuing to really investigate ways to more efficiently operate the district. I talked about our advocacy efforts. I have currently a superintendent county group. Pitman's leading the charge. I want to thank Ms. Miller. She actually came and spoke to the superintendents and all the county DAs. We're trying to kind of form a coalition to write a letter potentially to the senator, senators, to policymakers, decision makers. Really kind of, we think there's power in numbers, and we really have reason to believe now that we saw state aid numbers that we're in the same boat as a lot of our other districts around us. So it's something we really are investigating right now. A couple highlights here. Our goal was to preserve all programs, implement zero-based budgeting. So really from the ground up, what is the most necessary item? Obviously our personnel, and then go from there. What items can we make sure that aren't hit, that we absolutely need to operate? We added an additional preschool classroom. If you recall, we moved the central office from Memorial School to Wall School over the summer, and we want to add services. Now we want to add an additional classroom. Ms. Miller has probably talked about this before, but that would help us serve our entire universe. Did I get that term right? Our entire preschool universe, and that's a goal of ours right now. Many school districts across the state, Washington Township is currently renting out Kindle. That's part of their idea is to serve their entire universe there. Purchase a new math program, Envisions 2.0 in grades K to 5. Mr. Caltabiano has worked with the team of teachers to implement that. PD on all that as well, but that's an ongoing cost. We need to address maintenance needs. Our 24-25 maintenance allocation was 170. We kind of beefed that up this year to 230. So we could, you saw this was painted. First order of business, painting the media center, cafeteria. And so really kind of to dig down on a lot of those things that we need to do. A lot of that is safety and security as well, which we want to certainly prioritize. We want to maximize food services funds to offset the general fund. That's something that Mr. Miles has been creative with. We are, at the moment, again, really as a zero-based budgeting effort, is to pause the purchase of student Chromebooks for 1 year. You know, that's one area that we'd rather focus on really great instruction, and obviously it's a team effort with teachers, but we want to be careful with our use of tech. I think some educators in here have heard of something called the SAMR model. It's really it's substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. It's ed speak, but the idea is that we can't just be using technology to use technology. It has to serve a purpose, and we really want to kind of privilege that. And so one of the ways we said we could probably push this off for a year and save in other areas. This is a lot of the technical stuff. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Miles to talk about some of the higher level math and line items.
Thanks, Dr. Preston. All right, so I just wanted to briefly just touch on this last point. This is something that we have our eye on. When I came here last year, Mr. Crispin actually briefly spoke about this, but we are relying less on reserves and fund balance to essentially close the budget. So when we say we're closing the budget, our revenues and our expenditures have to equal. So unlike the federal government, we need a balanced budget. So the way to balance the budget for some districts is to bring in reserve funds, which is essentially like a savings account. That can be good at times, but it's not a recurring revenue. So we want to be very mindful of that. So for 24-25, we brought maintenance reserve funds in. 170, you can go to the max of the expenditure. So what we allocated for maintenance items, we matched with our maintenance reserve to bring in. So if you look at 25-26, we're allocating 230, but we're only bringing in 100,000, which is good because we're absorbing $130,000 of that cost in the rest of our budget, within our budget, which is positive. A fund balance is essentially like a savings account. We really have our eye on that. Last year, or I should say current year, the one we're living in now, this budget, 1.2 million was brought into balance. And for next year's proposed budget, it's less than that. It's about $400,000 less at 844, which is actually a good thing. One thing that really helped us, and I just want to say this to the board, is the zero-based budgeting. We did that for essentially all of our lines. There's over 400 expenditure lines. So when you look at a line, what's not zero-based budgeting is to say, oh, this line, this expenditure line had $200,000 last year. Let's just add 2% to it and make it, $204,000. Well, how do you know you need $204,000? Maybe you need $300,000. Maybe you only need $100,000. Maybe you need $50,000. So you start from the ground up, as Dr. Preston said, and really see what are our expenditures, and it was really a great way for us to get to know the budget. That helped us with this budget because we were able to close the gap in a responsible way. All right, I'll go very briefly through this, but I just think this is instructive and helpful to see where we've been with managing spending. We don't have a lot of flexibility with our revenues. We're told by the state what we're getting, which has not always been good news. And then we have restrictions on the local tax levy. And like we mentioned, we want to be very mindful of increasing that. So what we can do, though, is manage our spending. So if we look here at this first column, 22-23, a budget for a school district is usually, for the most part, this is simplified, but divided up into 3 categories. The general fund, which is basically our operating budget. This top line is the meat and potatoes of what we do every day. Our teaching, our learning, buying books, buying Chromebooks, paying teachers. That's the top line, general. Special, that just is our grants. So this was in 22-23, a lot of ARC ESSER funds, American Rescue Plan funds, also PEA, preschool expansion aid, is considered a grant. So that's in that 2 million figure. And then our debt service fund, our third fund, is what we pay every year to pay down bonds. The referendum from, I think, 2009. So as you can see, I'll breeze through this. This is where we were in 22-23. The next year, you can see we're having to manage the spending, even though the grants and debt service funds are pretty constant. You can see grants went up. This has to do with some remaining ARP ESSER funds that we spent at the tail end of last year. But these kind of are pretty consistent, and you can see from our general fund that it went down almost $2 million. The current year that we're in, we're pretty consistent in our operating budget, our general fund, 23.6, 23.9. Now, where are we next year? What's the proposed amount? The proposed amount is that last column, and for the board, I believe that's page 8 of your agenda. It would actually be the top column, which shows the 3 funds and what the total amounts are, and then the amount raised in the local tax levy. So one thing I want to show you here is we believe we've been very responsible in the way we've constructed the budget. As you can see, the difference between those last two, the current year and this proposed year, is about $745,000. So we're going down. Now, something to say, this is a little misleading, because in the current budget for this year, there's a lot of money from capital reserve that was brought in for the HVAC project at the junior senior high and for different projects we've done, about $700,000 worth. So if you remove that, the actual operating figures are pretty consistent. But using zero-based budgeting helped us keep things pretty consistent and really allocate funds where we thought it needed to be. We still have some play in the joints. You know, with any budget, we talked about this, you cut the fat, but you can't cut into the muscle. We don't believe we cut into the muscle, but we try to trim all the fat, and that helped us actually bring that total number down. Any questions on that from the board? I know that, just posing this right now, but any questions, any comments? We'll bring the plane in for a landing here. So the tax levy impact, what we're looking at for this is we have assessed value. That's not actual value. That's not market value. The average assessed home in Pitman is approximately $239,000, and then we have the varying amounts there. And then the impact would be about, proposed impact would be a little shy of $100 for the year, or about $8 a month. That's what we're looking at with the increase to the local tax levy. We did have the availability to increase it further because of rising health costs. And we didn't take all that allowance because out of respect for the taxpayers, we wanted to keep it as low as we can and really trim everything we could in a responsible way. So that's an overview of the budget. If there's any questions from the board, feel free to ask. But we want to give you kind of some ideas of what you're approving tonight.
Is there any discussion? I think we feel well prepared to hear it, so I think we're good.
Good.
Yeah, overall super positive. We're happy. Again, minimizing impacts to staffing and to programs, and so we feel fortunate. We're trying to balance that message of being grateful that we received increased funding, but still kind of pressing for more to kind of be restored to pre S2 dollars is still really a guiding goal of ours. So thanks.
Great.
Very good, thank you. All right, that's going to bring us to our first public comment. The first public comment is on agenda items only. The Pitman Public School Board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. This is the first of 2 public comments we will have tonight. The first public hearing is on agenda items only. This is a public comment and not a dialogue between the board and the public. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and it is your opportunity to comment or ask questions. In accordance with Board Policy Number 0167, we ask that you state your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable. To be recognized to speak, please stand at the podium located to my left and speak clearly into the microphone. Okay, seeing none. Mr. Miles, do we have any correspondence?
There's no correspondence.
Okay, thank you. This will take us to our approval of meeting minutes. I will now move to accept a motion for the minutes of the Pitman Board of Education as held on the dates listed below are approved as printed and reading dispensed with. May I have a second?
Second, Bolton.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have to
And-
abstain, right?
Yes.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Abstention,
So-
Pote, and Higby Iono. It's noted.
And any objections? All right. All right, seeing none, it's gonna take us to our president's report. Okay, so on, February 27th, we had, county leaders from the NJSBA were invited to Attorney General Plackton's, address to various educational groups throughout the state. It was a Zoom call. I was able to attend as a county leader, and they, conversations were the broad policy shifts. It was really in response to things that they believe could be happening at the federal level and what that could do for the state, at the state level, and what they would, potential actions they would take. And so they kind of discussed the broad policy shifts, DI, immigration, and funding. The meeting was very surface level. It wasn't super specific. It really reiterated what the state's position is on some of those topics and what their course of action would be. So it didn't drill down into the realm of policy making topics for our interest, but I did think it was helpful to hear, and I appreciated the NJSBA had seats at the table and provided us with the opportunity to join. On the 28th, we had the second meeting with the county representation. It was just superintendents and business administrators. I want to thank Mr. Miles, Dr. Preston, and Mr. Caltabiano, because it was super helpful, and Mrs. Higby Iono was also able to attend that day, so that we could discuss the funding formula in greater detail. They had their 2026 fiscal year 2026 numbers at that point, and so I just want to provide some details for both the board, who's probably already heard this, and some of the members of the public. So this year, the governor's budget address for direct K through 12 aid, they allocated $12 billion in direct aid to public schools in the state of New Jersey. And we received guidance from the NJDOE that in the 4 categories of aid that they specified, there would be no greater reduction than 3% or no greater increase than 3%. So that's some of what caused the fiscal year 26 to run very differently. What our concern is that by statute, the formula is codified and it explains how the formula has to work itself out. But by them putting a 3% cap, which is not permitted really by statute, but a decision that they've made, it has essentially kind of disguised some of the alarming numbers that we saw in this year's formula when it played out the way that it should. So one of those examples that we talk a lot about is being a self-funded district. One of the largest areas of aid that we previously received was something called equalization aid. And that, again, for members of the public, is supposed to be the state's portion of the bill, so to speak. So after they calculate what it costs to provide a thorough and efficient education and what is a fair amount for us to raise in local taxes, they're supposed to cover that difference, that equalization aid. So previously, in fiscal year 25, so just 1 year ago, there was 191 districts in the state of New Jersey who received $0 in equalization aid. And in 1 year, had the formula run as intended, we'd be up to 306 districts. So it'd be 306 districts that received no aid in what is the largest aid bucket that they had previously received. And specific to Gloucester County, we went from 1 self-funded district to 5. Now, we didn't in actuality because of that 3% cap. But the fear is, and kind of swirling around those conversations you hear in the Assembly and Senate, is that if we're not mindful of that, it could very much be our reality the next year. And we know that that's driven up by our local fair share, or what the state allocates, or what the state assumes our responsibility as local property owners are to pay for our local schools. And the number that we've talked a lot about is that multiplier that they use. That's the number that makes it impossible for districts to guess what their state aid will look like, because that changes from year to year. So since the induction of SFRA, which is the funding formula law, the multiplier for home value that they multiply our home value against has gone up 61%. So they've really put their thumb on the scale, so to speak, and increased the weight that has in how they determine how much they're going to pay by 61%. And then the district income has gone up by 35%. So those are really alarming numbers. If you look at how the formula was originated, why we're seeing this large growth in what they assume local property tax owners should be paying comparative to the state portion. And in 1 year, so just from fiscal year 25, we saw an 18 and 19% in each of those categories increase. So nearly 20% that they've increased the local fair share calculations for area districts. And that's what's driving down their portion of the bill. So in Gloucester County, had the formula run as required, we would have lost $16 million in equalization aid. That's substantial when you look at the size of our county and the district. So that's, one of the items that we kind of had on our radar as concern, because by capping it at 3% and districts not feeling that full impact, the fear is that they'll kind of rest on their laurels and they'll stop coming out in, hundreds to budget hearings and really keeping an eye on what changes are being made from the legislative side and not advocate appropriately. And then change could get put through that could solidify these and bake them in consistently to the formula in a way we can't escape. So I really want folks not to be comfortable with the fact that it was capped this year and recognize that we still have a tremendous amount of work to do in terms of advocating for suburban districts, so that, we're now approaching 50% of the state where the bulk of your schools are being funded by local property taxes. And the language in the SFRA was intended to decrease the property tax burden and create transparency and predictability, and it's frankly done the exact opposite for nearly 50% of us. So that's all kind of some of the big topics. Another item is the special education calculation. So this year in fiscal year 26, previously the state provided you a flat percentage. So they said, this is the number of students that we think you're gonna have, and 15.9% of them are classified, regardless of what your actual special education classification rate is. And then they utilize that number to say how much aid you would receive. This year they used our actual classification rate. So from one year to the next, we were missing $607,000 in special education aid that we didn't receive last year for identified and classified pupils that were receiving services in our district. And if we extrapolate that out over the entire lifetime of the SFRA, we're talking, approaching tens of millions of a $10 million deficit essentially that the state has kept on their side. And then districts that underclassify students they were receiving the aid as if they were all on the books. So you're talking millions of dollars in some scenarios each year of aid going to districts that weren't receiving it. So this year, now that they ran the formula to the actual classified rate, it increased that line item for the state 29.5%. So, we understand that they were doing it for a variety of reasons, one of which was cost savings to them. But it was refreshing to see that this is a particular item that we as a board have advocated for repeatedly at the legislative level, that it was in fact reflected in this year's state aid. They also flat funded extraordinary aid. That's the special education costs for out of district and in district placements that are in excess of certain values. We get pennies on the dollar. By flat funding it, it's just going to be further decreased. We're going to get even fewer pennies because we know that those costs have gone up. And so we are not going to reimburse us at a greater rate with that flat funding. So that's another item of concern that we have in terms of our legislative advocacy. The decreased debt service aid, this is an item we talked about. That's another item the state does not fully fund. It should be 40%. They in fact only funded at 34%. It's at a cost of nearly $1 million to Pitman taxpayers by the state not fully funding that aid. And finally, the other item of note was the NJ4S, that's the statewide student support network. They shifted their funding source. Previously, it was I think it was $42 million last year. It was all DOE funded. This year, it was $7 million from the DOE and $36 million from cannabis. So that was a source of where they drove that funding in to help support this budget. I have just a couple more. I know this is a long one, sorry. I should break it up from the budget, right? So the next item I want to talk about is the legislative committee meeting. That was on Saturday, hosted by the NJSBA. We had Assemblyman Cody Miller from LD4. He attended our funding formula meeting back in January. He served previously on a school board, so he's well versed in some of the concerns actually in Gloucester County that our districts face. Some of the things that he indicated that he was supportive of in the legislative committee meeting for the NJSBA was infrastructure support. One of my follow-up questions for him was that something that he anticipated, because he spoke to it on not the debt service relief aid side, but the grant side. But we asked him, were you supportive of that for both what are SEA districts or what are formerly called Abbott districts, which we are not, or regular operating districts, which is what we are. And he indicated that it wasn't something he had really kind of fully fleshed out, but that he did feel like he understood, having been a board member in what was a ROD district, what their needs were. So they still have a lottery in Williamstown, which is the district that he represented for their preschool. and he understood that they needed quite a bit more space to be able to meet those needs, so he saw those issues. He also acknowledged that topic, that revaluation reassessment parity issue that I've talked a lot about, where we know that some municipalities haven't been reassessed or revalued in 40+ years, and they're not properties, I'm sorry, but entire municipalities. So he spoke to why that is an issue for the funding formula. And he also spoke about the 16 and 17-year-olds that are being permitted to vote in certain areas within the state of New Jersey. The NJSBA is not in favor of that bill to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in school board elections. Their philosophy is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if our Assembly and Senate and Governor feel so passionately about providing that opportunity to youth, they should do so in their own elections as well. And I thought that was spot on personal level. The next item up, they covered some of the pending legislation, and I'll get through these really quickly. Cell phone usage in schools, which we know has kind of been swirling around. That's one of the pending legislative items. A common app for all jobs. Taking the enrollment tiers for the teacher retirement. Currently, if you take off more than 2 years, you lose your tier. If you came into the pension system at a tier 1 or tier 2, you would lose your ability to stay at that tier. They want to lengthen that so that people have the opportunity to meet their family's needs, or whatever their reason is for kind of stepping out of the profession and return without the loss of that tier. So that's another pending item of legislation. And then the one that we kind of have our eye most closely on is Senator Gopal is continuing his efforts for school funding reform. He had a number of items. They did remove the tax cap flexibility issue, which would allow districts to raise their taxes in excess of 2%, because per the Assemblyman, I don't feel like it's a secret. The entire Assembly is up for election this year, and there isn't a large appetite throughout the state for increased property taxes, and no one really wants to stand on that hill. So they eliminated that, which I think is advantageous to us in our position as a board who kind of agree. Establish a special education funding formula review task force. A reduction in adjustment aid capped at 2% of your operating budget. That's kind of another item. And they had a laundry list of other items, tier-based special education model, funding, like all those things that we've kind of discussed. They did sign into law the petition, so for the individuals that are up for re-election this year, increasing the number of signatures that you'll need for the ballot to 25. And the only other 2 items I kind of want to put on the board's radar and invite any discussion on is I have an email that I'm drafting to our representatives at LD3. Senator Berzelli's been a great advocate for us, but kind of in advance of budget season, as we call it, at the local level, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So if anybody has any concerns that I continue to represent out, that I'm speaking on behalf of the entire board, as usual, please flag me down and let me know, or speak up. I'm happy to amend that. And then the only other last item that I want to read into record is that on 3/5 we held our committee meetings in advance of the budget presentations to share our respective committee priorities, our funding, our facilities, and finance and facilities. I was like, nope, I got it wrong. I said them all in first. Committee met at 3:30 and we discussed the referendum projects, funds, and process, as well as the tax levy impact. At 4:30, our curriculum and instruction committee met, and those topics were the primary focus. And at 5:30, our communication and policy committee met, where they focused on the budgeting decisions and what roles that could have on any policies, in an effort to make sure that our communication continues to be transparent with the community. So that was a long one. I apologize. And I will turn it over to Dr. Preston for our superintendent report.
Yeah, of course. Certainly want to thank Ms. Miller. She thanked us for having her in. We did nothing but kind of hold the setting. Dr. Lombardo, Ms. Stewart allowed us to use this media center 2 Fridays ago. It was excellent. We've had great feedback. It was actually every other district, superintendent and BA came to me and Rob, Mr. Miles, and said, would your board president be willing to give us a little primer on the state aid funding for us? I said, sure, if I could ask her, and she said, sure enough. So it's been a really good kind of coalition of people. I'm actually meeting this Friday with my superintendent roundtable to try to continue working on our draft letter to legislators. Certainly encourage you to, we're presenting at hearings next week. Certainly encourage you to write your local LD3 leaders. They've been very receptive to that. We actually invited, for Read Across America, I want to thank a lot of people. Mr. Mayor was there. I know several other council people came and read to our students. Some assembly people came, some commissioners came, and it was really good. I was able to have some conversations with them, and they're receptive to it. Our plight, and just showing them around the building, I think, was huge. So thanks to the principals as well for giving that setting. Some other things I just want to alert you to. We had QSAC in the building today. That's Quality Single Accountability Continuum. It's the state. They come in, do an audit, and make sure we're doing everything good. They were here for a number of hours, probably 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, it was an intensive one. So there's new leadership at the county level, and so they come in and they observe us in 5 different domains: governance, fiscal, curriculum instruct, INP, personnel, and operations. And so Mr. Miles, Mr. Caltabiano, Mr. Morris in the back, we're all involved. Principals, teachers, union representatives were involved. We try to involve as many people as we can in that process. They've really shifted the focus of that. It used to be this kind of scary process. Now it's more of a support process. Hey, here's where you need to be. Let's be honest with ourselves about where we need to grow. And so we feel pretty confident about, we didn't get feedback yet, but we'll report that out when we get it to the board. I just wanted to thank the board for allowing me to assistant coach the golf team. It's been a lot of fun. I've only gotten out, I promised Coach Gangloff that I'd get out like 2 or 3 days a week. So I'm only on the range. I don't go out on the course, but I'm out there and I'm having a great time showing a lot of the students. There was a couple students here earlier tonight that are on the team, and yeah, I shot a 51 today, and I'm getting better, and really it's fascinating to see them grow, and there's a huge turnout. I know Ms. Bolton's son is one of the top golfers, and it's just that, I mean, there's hordes of people. I actually talked to another teacher. There's more students interested, and Miss Donnelly wants to. I haven't even met with her yet, but wants to get together and actually start a separate clinic at a couple area golfing locations. So I said, golf is a lifelong sport. I think it's the best sport. No offense to the soccer people in here and the tennis people, but it's the only one you play lifelong. So that's been great, and so thank you for allowing me to do that. Certainly my team, obviously I sometimes I have to scoot out of meetings. Hey, I got to get onto the course. It's been great. I want to congratulate students with, I see a couple students back there. I see our Masters director back there, Mr. Grossman. I wanted to congratulate him on a successful Masters performance Thursday and Friday. I was at the Thursday showing. It was spectacular. Madagascar Junior. I had a lot of fun. Audience was getting involved, and it was just kind of like it was almost like a participatory event. People started clapping and singing. So I had a great time with that. I really did. I never acted in those, but I was always in like the pit orchestra, and so I always have it's near and dear to my heart there. I do want to, if I can, I know we haven't approved her yet, or do you want to get to that first? I do want to introduce one of our hires here, who's in the room tonight.
Absolutely.
So I did want to take the time during my report to read. So you see an announcement item. Where are we? A big announcement. I have item 18 under curriculum instruction. Ms. Kristen Stewart, I would like to introduce her as the newly created position of junior senior high school. So if you could stand, we could give you a round of applause. This was perhaps the easiest decision of my career as an administrator to promote Ms. Stewart to this role. I mean that in earnest. I want to read what I wrote to the faculty this morning. I always like to prime the faculty beforehand. They're our heart and soul of the district, really, and they provide the service that I was talking to you about. So I'd like them to be in the know first when possible. Sometimes I forget and I get yelled at. No, I don't. Ms. Stewart's dedication to Pitman students and her passion for education have been inspiring. She's not only an exceptional educator at heart, but also a leader who consistently demonstrates grace, integrity, and thoughtfulness in every decision she makes. Her ability to navigate challenges with poise and diplomacy is a testament to her unwavering commitment to our school community. As Ms. Stewart steps into this new role, I will work closely with her to ensure a smooth transition. Looking ahead to the 25-26 school year, we are also planning to introduce new positions to complement her leadership and address key areas like athletics and guidance, among others. These roles will help fill the voids left by Dr. Lombardo, who's also here in the audience tonight, who is retiring, and Mr. Shivers, who has announced his plans to step down at the end of June. And I want to take this opportunity to thank both of them as well. But really, I did ask Ms. Stewart to share at the next public comment, a little bit about her background, and obviously a lot of you know her better than you know me, really. And again, this was a no-brainer, and I want to thank you for really stepping up to the plate and taking on this challenge of this new role.
Can we have Mrs. Stewart speak now? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that all right, Mrs. Stewart? If we allow,
Say yes to it. You guys gotta approve it first.
Yeah.
You think?
Why don't you approve it now?
Okay. Well, how about if I walk on that motion?
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to walk on item number 18 under curriculum and instruction.
Second, Grossman.
Mr. Miles, will you please call roll?
Yes. Mrs. Bolton?
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes.
Mrs. Higby-Iono?
Yes.
Mrs. Pote?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
I heard something very simple. I didn't know you wanted me to share about.
No, you don't have to do that. I didn't know what you were going to share, so share as little as much as you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep it simple because I'm just excited. It's emotional. It's our district's been through a whole lot, and this opportunity. I have an app on my phone I use every night. And last night it gives you a quote. So when you open it, it comes up. And last night's quote was, "The greatest communication is in our daily actions, rather than what we say." I am grateful to have been a part of our Pitman community over the last 10 years, and I'm excited that my actions have opened the door to this new opportunity. I accept this position with excitement about all we can build and accomplish, optimism for the bright future ahead, and a sense of purpose to make the Pitman Junior-Senior High School experience the best it can be for our whole school community. For me, when I think about the future of my career, the only place for me is with the kids. And here, I'm out on the lawn today playing football. I can't help myself. And, there's just things that go on in Pitman that don't go on in other places. Like, I was trying to think of different things that would never happen anywhere else. The kids emailed me, one of the students emailed me on Christmas Day and was like, "Did you get the sneakers you wanted?" So, like, those kinds of things, to be able to run around and hang out with them is where I'm meant to be. So I just want to take a minute to thank Dr. Preston and the board for entrusting me with this new position. We have a saying in my family where we do not wish away time. It's like a big thing that we always say. But I'm pretty excited for July 1st. So,
So am I.
Thank you so much.
With a Spirit Week centered around reading, first graders read books, facts over the morning announcements. They had a building-wide DEAR time and a chance to bring in their favorite stuffies to read to. Memorial had so many guest readers too, the PHS football and cheer team, several local legislators, and wrapped up with Miss Pitman. The culmination to their week was a masked reader assembly. Like the Masked Singer show, staff in blow-up costumes read parts of Oh, the Places You'll Go and guessed who the readers were. It was a super fun activity. Students participate in a readathon sponsored by the HSA. Their top reading class was Mrs. Bell's kindergarten with 9,540 minutes read, and our top reader was Ben Patterson with 3,197 minutes read. Everyone who participated did an outstanding job. Looking toward the 25-26 school year, preschool registration has wrapped up and families have been notified of their next year's placements, and kindergarten registration for students has begun. At PES, Ms. Mason writes that there are a lot of exciting things happening at PES. Their 5th and 6th grade maskers performed Madagascar Junior, and it was a huge success. There was a packed house both nights of the show. Some upcoming events they have to share is that the HSA is sponsoring a bingo event Friday, April 4th in the PES cafeteria. Spring class and individual pictures are taken right around the corner on April 3rd. Zoo on Wheels assembly for grades 2 through 4 is scheduled for April 9th, and they're currently partnering with the Pitman Manor and holding a book drive through Book Smiles, a book donation bin outside of the PES main entrance.
Over at the junior-senior high school, spring sports have started up. Scrimmages have started this week and games will start next week. Good luck to our softball, baseball, track, boys tennis, and golf teams. SAD Club is utilizing the month of March to bring awareness to suicide prevention. Posters can be seen around the school encouraging students to know that they are not alone, there is help, and there is hope. On Monday, March 24th, we kick off Academic Spirit Week. Students and staff are encouraged to dress up for College Shirt Day, Future Professions Day, Mathlete vs. Athlete, Dress Like a Teacher, and Academic Bowl Shirt Day. Students will be able to participate in events such as Quizzo, the Academic Bowl, and cheer on the senior boys as we see who will win the title of Mr. Pitman 2025. Mr. Pitman will take place on Friday, March 28th at 7 p.m., and tickets will be $5 for students and $10 for adults at the door. At Pitman, we are all about showing appreciation for our teachers. On Thursday, March 27th, Student Council is hosting their annual Staff Appreciation Dinner, and we cannot wait to see everyone there. The National Honor Society has had fundraisers selling Gertrude Hulk chocolate and has partnered with Brewed Awakening with a special sheet drink where a portion of the proceeds will be utilized to help remodel the junior-senior high school teachers lounge. STEAM students are able to utilize their knowledge they are gaining through their courses to help create games for the staff dinner and work towards the remodel of the teachers lounge.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's going to take us to finance and facilities. I will turn it over to our chairman, Mr. Grossman.
The Finance and Facilities Committee met on March the 12th, 2025 at 3:30 p.m. In attendance were committee members Rebecca Higby-Iono and April Miller, as well as Superintendent Robert Preston and Business Administrator Robert Miles. The committee discussed the agenda items, most of which are routine payment of bills and regulatory reporting responsibilities. A few highlights: Panther Club rates will not be raised for 25-26 school year. The district is entering a new lease for copiers that will save us $300 a month. The district is required to issue an RFP for food services this year. The board will be approving the resolution to allow the sale of bonds to fund the referendum projects. The committee discussed moving forward with the renovation to create the new central office at Wall School. This is needed, but will also make it much easier to market the majority of the building to potential renters. With that, I move to adopt items 1 through 26 as written.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Miles, please call the roll.
Right. Mrs. Bolton?
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell? Mr. Grossman?
Yes.
Mrs. Higby-Iono?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. So to get to curriculum instruction, I will turn it over to the chairwoman, Mrs. Grossman. Or Mrs. Bolton. I was thinking. Looking at her.
Might not appreciate that.
It happens.
What?
It happens.
The Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on March 12th, 2025 at 4:30, and the meeting lasted a little less than an hour. In attendance were Dr. Preston, Mr. Catsiano, Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Pote, and myself. We discussed some of the items on the agenda tonight. Number 6 is Educational Consultant Citrus will hold a presentation to our junior and senior class on the topic of becoming great leaders and decision makers at no cost to our district. Number 7 is the approval of our 2025-26 school calendar. I would just say make a note of, with tonight's approval, number 9, I know we talked about this last month. So this is the announcement that Memorial School next year will change from the start time of 8:45, will now move to 9 o'clock, or 9 a.m. I should say. We continue to discuss our discussion on class rank and if we need to make changes to level the playing field for all students, and that
conversation will continue probably. So with that, I will make a motion to approve items 2 through 24.
Can you amend that 2 through 17 and then 19
I was
through-
gonna say, do I
Sorry,
need to
I
do that, or,
apologize.
okay.
Yes.
2 through 17, and then 19 through 24.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Rouse, please call the vote.
Mrs. Bolton?
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Grossman?
I have to abstain on number 23 and yes to the rest.
All right, abstention noted. Number 23. Mrs. Higby Iono?
I have to abstain on item 21 and yes to the rest.
All right, abstention, item 21. Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
I abstain from item number 3 and yes to the rest.
All right, item number 3, abstention, and motion carried.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, I
apologize.
No, it's okay, I was gonna wait till after the motion.
No, got it.
I just want to acknowledge several other new hires too. I know he hates when I do this, but Mr. Joe Joyce, behind the scenes over there.
Yeah.
He's now official. He had been working part-time and has, really on-the-job training was tremendous. And so we've made him a full-time tech. He's also stepping up in the absence of Ms. Romer, who's on leave, our district communications coordinator. I know, I should acknowledge too, Rebecca and Aubrey they do an excellent job with our social media stuff. I'm not great at social media, so I've surrounded myself by great social media people, and Mr. Joyce has been helping out with that too, and interfacing with Aubrey and Becca, and it's been great, and I can't thank you guys enough. Mr. Chris Paul, he's here in the building tonight. He's he's going to be one of our night custodians. We're not quite sure where he's going to be placed yet, but he's also a great addition, local Pitman resident. Just a tremendous worker, and we're so thankful to bring him on. And we had a nice long talk with Mr. Paul.
Not the NBA player.
Not the
either.
NBA player. Yeah, I know. It's like I was a little disappointed not to see Chris Paul walk in, but. And then lastly, Jerry Moore. He's our new maintenance worker. Mr. Moore's not here tonight, but it brings a tremendous wealth of experience. He was actually a longtime facilities director in
Wissahickon.
Wissahickon. I always get those two confused, but he was in Wissahickon as a facilities director for a long time, for 30 years. That's up near Ambler, PA. It's a big school district. He oversaw a staff of, I want to say, 65, which included supervisors and maintenance workers. So, but he's, as humble as they come. He wants to pitch in, but he'll lend that expertise, and we need that, as we talked about maintenance, really kind of, putting an emphasis on buildings and grounds. I think that's so important, particularly when we're trying to attract people to our district, even non-resident tuition. So, we're really thankful that we found Mr. Moore, and so nice job on that, Mr. Miles, as well. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, communication and policy, I will turn it over to our chairwoman, Ms. Biayo.
Okay. The Communication and Policy Committee met on March 12th at 5:30. The meeting was attended by Mrs. Papalardo, Mrs. Farrell, Dr. Preston, Mr. Caltabiano, Mr. Miles, and myself. The policies that were discussed and approved for a first reading last month are on the agenda to be adopted this month. And over the last 2 meetings, the committee discussed the need to have an AI plan that will set out the purposes in which AI can be used appropriately in the school setting by our teachers and students. Mr. Caltabiano has put in a lot of work and drafted a thorough plan for the district, as well as a separate document to provide additional guidance to staff. He also drafted a revision to the academic integrity policy to include a restriction on students using AI to complete assignments in violation of the AI plan. These items are on the agenda tonight for a first reading. So with that, I move to adopt items 1 and 2 as written.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Second, Farrell.
All right, Mr. Miles, please call roll.
Mrs. Bolton?
Yes.
Mrs. Farrell?
Yes.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes.
Mrs. Higby Iono?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, that's going to bring us to our second public comment. In order to be recognized to speak, please come stand at the podium located to my left. State your name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Debbie Scheibler, a resident here of Pitman, 321 Edson Avenue. Just wanted to, again, speak congratulations to the Massacres folks. I really appreciate the commitment to the arts here in Pitman. To that point, one of the agenda items is the appointment of Sarah Mickle as the assistant director for the musical and the play at the junior senior high school. Earlier, actually last week, there was an incident that took place at the practice, and I am here to just kind of publicly comment as a parent, as an educator, my concern and my disappointment from the district as a whole with the lack of communication to the parents. The students who are here tonight are a small representation of our thespians, our artists, our musicians, our performers in this district. They have had one heck of a year in terms of roller coasters with change and ebb and flow, and I'm not here to debate one way or the other. I'm not here to pick a side. But what we do owe our students is communication. What we do owe our students is a place where they can feel that they are heard, where they are seen, and where they feel safe. And in this moment, I don't believe all of our students do feel seen, heard, respected, definitely not being communicated with. The parents, and I'll speak for myself, but perhaps some of my my colleagues would agree, as parents of the district, you don't have to tell us every single thing. Totally respect that. I sit in a position of leadership and education. I know that that is not a thing that can always happen. However, the lack of literally anything to me as a parent, as a taxpayer, is really unacceptable. I expect more from our really awesome district. I know that we care about our students. I would like to see more of that. We've approved to appoint Sarah Mickle as the assistant director. I really hope we have a play or a musical to actually see that through. And in this moment, I'm not sure if that's true. We've had 3 days of a pause of rehearsals for an indefinite amount of time. These students are in limbo. They don't know what's happening. They've dedicated their time, their energy, heard nothing. Please, please do better by our students. Please respect them. They are our leaders. They are our future. They deserve better from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to participate in public comment? Thank you.
Greg Yordy, 418 Grandview Avenue. I don't think it's appropriate to talk about a educator without a rice notice, and somebody should know that as an administrator. But I just want to put that out there. Second, Dr. Lombardo is retiring, so I want to give kudos to her. I've been a resident here for 29 years. She cares about the kids, genuinely cares. Congratulate Mrs. Stewart. I mean, the two of them, responsibility. I have been in there for good things. I've been in their offices for bad things with my older boys. Just leave it at that. But sometimes, as Mrs. Stewart knew and as Dr. Lombardo knew, you have to take responsibility for your actions. And, you know, I want to thank both of them, congratulate one, congratulate the other. She will enjoy it. And that's it. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to participate in public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move over to old business. Is there any old business? Any new business? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second, Bolton.
All in favor? Aye. The next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 30th. That reflects the spring break in the interim, so if everyone just wants to make a note, we're a little later in the month, and it will be at 7 p.m.